Inside Business Conclave, which is Techonomy. Insight, as you know, is the annual business, finance, and economics meet of Narsee Monjee College of Commerce and Economics, which aims to
exemplify the reality to the youth with the guidance of our honorable speakers. And this year's theme is the virtual civilization. I am Puratan Bhati, your host, and joining me today is the Managing Director and CEO at NSDL E-Governance
Infrastructure Limited, Mr. Suresh Sethi, the man who won the trust of India's common man by founding the India Post Payments Bank. Is truly a man of honor and sheer dignity. Mr. Sethi, it's a pleasure to host you, sir.
Thank you, Puratan. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Sir, from working in Citibank International for 14 years to becoming the Managing Director and CEO of NSDL E-Governance, you have come up a long way, certainly. Tell us briefly what turning points helped you to transform to what you are today.
So, Puratan, I think it has been quite a checkered career, I would say. I have worked in an MNC. I came back from Citibank to India to work in a startup organization where we set up Yes Bank, and I was part of the founding team. And then moved on to another startup where I worked with, or rather moved into the telecom industry, switching from the financial services sector. And we again set the building blocks for launching the M-Pesa business in India. And subsequent to that, I would say another startup at an absolutely different scale, where we set up the India Post Payments Bank, which effectively was going to leverage one of the largest networks anywhere in the world, the postal network, to convert it into a banking institution. So I think it has been along a lot of areas of interest. I think one thing which has sort of been an underlying thread which has connected all these pieces has been the ability to create large-scale impact at the last mile, be it in the form of a financial services organization, be it in the form of leveraging the telecom infrastructure to provide services at the last mile, be it India Post Payment Bank, where we could actually leverage the strength of both the physical infrastructure and the human capital of the postal network to take services to the last mile to the people. And now, as you know, I'm working with NSDL E-Governance, which again has been a pioneer institution in setting up the e-governance infrastructure of the country. So what has really, I think, kept me going and kept me very invested in this space has been the ability to be able to reach out to masses at large and create interventions which have in the long run created social empowerment and actually touched livelihoods and brought people up the social curve.
Certainly an impressive profile, sir, and a lot of contribution to the economy also. Now, during the pandemic, we have seen a shift to digitalization, and this has acted as an opportunity, as you know, for many budding entrepreneurs. So, how do you read these developments which has been brought about by digitalization? How do you think it has impacted the various Indian sectors? And do you think this process of overall digitalization in the economy will further strengthen the economy as we are stepping out of the COVID situation?
So, Puratan, a very relevant question in these times, because as we look at the pandemic situation around, which has been naturally been an unprecedented event, and I would even take it back a few years on India's digital journey. So let me break up and break up the question as you asked and touch it separately on each of the aspects. So I think one, digitalization is definitely there to stay. As far as the process of digitalization is concerned, it has given us, rather the technology, the underlying technology, has given us the ability to reach out to places where we could not do earlier. Now, in this comes various aspects. Technology has created access, so which means people who could not access certain services, certain capabilities have been enabled to be and empowered to be able to do that. Digitalization has made a lot of business models much more affordable. Similarly, digitalization today brings the underlying technology to be able to cater to different product designs which are specific to the consumers, rather than saying one shoe fits all. And as we talk about it, I'm sure we'll have examples where we will elaborate how these things are really converging together. So digitalization is definitely there to stay. I would at this stage talk about India's journey in digitalization. When we look at financial inclusion, which means making sure the last person is included into the formal economy. If we look at that, now what are we really talking about over here? We are talking about the fact that if we go back a few years and go back to 2009, 2008, in our country, there were only 17% of adults who had a bank account. So our penetration from a financial formal economy inclusion was very limited. And one of the fundamental things which changed our entire thing was the introduction of Aadhaar in January 2009. Now, for anybody to get included into a formal economy, I think one of the building blocks is going to be identity. And Aadhaar, and at the scale at which it was launched, as we all know, within 5 years, we have over 1 billion Indians who are now possessing a biometric identity. And a program at this scale has never been launched anywhere in the world. So this became one of the core fundamental pillars on which we have built an entire stack of capabilities to enable people. Now, if we look at 2018, 2019, we are talking about almost 80% of Indians having a bank account, the adult population. Now, that clearly is a big swing happening in such a short span of period. But what has been equally important, if you see, when we look at the banking industry, one of the biggest challenges was being able to reach out to the masses and make them inclusive. And that meant right from being able to identify a person and bring them into the financial ecosystem. So what we term as KYC, the cost of KYC has come down by 150 times by the introduction of a digital identity like Aadhaar. But over and above that, what became very critical was that how do you really operate and access your accounts? And that is where I think very critically comes the position of the Aadhaar stack. So where we have built payment and settlement systems, which are interoperable in nature, we connected the entire banking ecosystem, and we created open systems where big tech can also become involved to create business models which are leveraging on the best of both worlds, with banks bringing in the regulation, the risk, and the compliance, and big tech bringing in the technology and the user interfaces to touch the last human. And I'm talking about companies like Google Pay, companies like PhonePe, Paytm, who have been able to bring this technology in place together to touch people and have them be able to operate their accounts. So that has been a big factor. And I will now string it up to say that today when we look at a last mile access point, clearly people are today working in an economy which is dominantly running in cash. So how do you convert it into digital? So you still need cash in and cash out points. And that is where somewhere I feel one of the other pillars which came into play was the establishment of institutions which created the last mile reach. And the government's initiatives in this direction, including the setting up of, say, an India Post Payment Bank and providing the space to the entire postal ecosystem to provide a last mile banking point to the consumer was an equally important element, where today we have almost 200,000 plus Dakias who with a simple biometric device and a smartphone can go to the doorstep of a customer and allow them to access any banking account and do transactions. So that in a way complemented and completed the entire circle of not just bringing people into the financial economy by opening bank accounts for them, providing them access, which was both direct through smartphones and through digitalization, but also through creating models like an India Post Payment Bank and the postal reach. So Purathan, I was saying that bank accounts provided people the ability to become a participant in the formal economy. Networks like India Post and other banking touchpoints, including the business correspondents, created the ability to last mile connect with the people to either access their accounts directly through digitalization or through using an assisted model where somebody with the digital technology enabled these people to operate their accounts. An interoperable payment and settlement system. And we all know we have world-class examples today, like UPI payments, like Aadhaar-enabled payment systems. Again, interconnected all these accounts, all these facilities or financial services for the last mile consumer. And that really created an immense network for us where people could participate in formal financial economy and get the benefits of it. So inclusion truly became a reality in a matter of 10 years, what would have otherwise taken a lot of years for it to be achieved. So I think digitalization has been at the core, at least of the financial services sector. And as we are looking forward, and you mentioned the pandemic, today health crisis has been a big challenge. Similarly, we are finding that a lot of people a lot of students are today sitting home and try to take education on a remote basis. So we are seeing huge elements or impact of technology now coming in enabling access to health services, to healthcare, be it telemedicine, be it teleconsultation. Similarly, we are looking at students, their ability to do remote learning, creating digital education programs. So these are two other sectors which are seeing significant interventions using technology.
I see, sir. So quite, I think these changes have had a lot of impact on the Indian economy. And you said that the financial inclusion has just got accelerated with the overall digitalization process, which have also been brought about due to pandemic situation. Sir, you have been an integral part of the banking sector. And we just spoke about financial inclusion also. So how do you think the bank can actually play a role in revival of the economy? And just adding a little thread to it, NSDL e-governance, how do you think could actually support the overall the banking infrastructure and the banking role in the revival of the economy?
I think one sector of the economy for us, which is a very relevant sector, is the MSME. MSME today contributes to almost 29% of the GDP of the country. And while we have 65 million MSMEs, only 9 million MSMEs today have access to formal credit. Now, in order to kickstart or revive the economy, credit provision is going to be very critical. And how do you make credit reach out to the last mile is going to be critical. Now, while the government has taken actually various initiatives, even during the pandemic, to make money available to the public finance management system, which is our direct benefit system, which again has been enabled through technology, it is equally important that we are able to provide credit to the MSME sector. And over there, it's not about subsidy distribution, because today we have the rails to be able to get money into a person's account directly through the PFMS. But equally important is the fact that how do we do the credit assessment, and how do we then provide credit against similar scoring or data analytics and so on. So banks and other financial institutions have a very significant role in enabling this. Now, as we spoke earlier, with 65 million MSMEs and the MSME sector being segregated or spread right across the value chain. So you're talking about people in urban locations, semi-urban, rural locations. Ability is to reach each and every one of them. A lot of them today may or may not have formal credit history. So balance sheet credit is not going to be something which can be applicable to them. So we are today looking at transaction-based, cash flow-based credit provisioning. And whether it is the GST data of people who are filing GST returns, or if you look at a small proprietor, their turnover and their transaction flows themselves today become a surrogate for providing credit analytics. Now, the banks, they can play a very strong role, and they are already doing that by partnering with technology and fintechs to create the right level of networking to be able to bring this MSME sector into the inclusion phase. Data is playing a great role over here to do data analytics and provide credit surrogates which are not available on the balance sheet. And these things put together are going to be very critical for us to jumpstart the economy. So banks have a very strong role, but I do believe banks partnering along with the fintech is going to be the real combination which is going to be able to achieve this revival in credit and distribution of credit at the last mile. When I look at NSDL e-governance, as you alluded to it, so we are today playing a role in various aspects. Other than some of the assets we have in the area of taxation, in the area of pension systems, we are today also providing capabilities to do digital KYC, similarly authentication using Aadhaar, or providing e-sign, which means today when we are looking at provision of credit, we today provide the basic infrastructure in which you can actually create a credit cycle where somebody can apply for a loan remotely in a totally digital process without any papers getting exchanged, all contracts being digitally signed through e-sign, and you have an end-to-end process which can be managed remotely, and the distribution of credit can happen directly into the account of the recipient. So I think that is going to be a very critical component of enabling credit and distribution of credit. And the role we are playing, whether it is on the eKYC side, on the side of e-authentication, or on the provision of e-sign, is going to be a very critical building block to be able to provide that capability.
I see. Wonderful insights, sir. So now, what we would want to understand that at the global level, where is digitalization heading? What's your take on the global scenario as far as digitalization is concerned? And sometimes we say that less is more. So it would be insightful to know that should there be a limit to digitalization, because everything today has moved to digitalization, be it colleges, schools, payments, and even interactions in certain cases, even meetings. So do you think there should be some limit to digitalization, or do you see something coming up on that front, sir?
So I will take it on two separate, views with regard to the level and the extent of digitalization. One side is clear that as we move into the digital world, if you may, and everything is connected through digital, cyber security becomes a very important part to it. So it is equally important for us to see that how do we secure and how do we make sure that the people who are today consuming services digitally or providing services digitally, that the entire ecosystem is secure and it is not vulnerable to an extent. Now, clearly, as we talk about inclusion, we are talking about a very vulnerable section of the society who is today able to become inclusive, but inclusive through digital. So which means that some of the interfaces and some of the ways in which they consume services has to be very intuitive, has to be very simple, so that the security remains. Now, we all know that we've grappled with the fact we started with single factor, then we talk about multi-factor authentication, we talk about the complexity of passwords, we talk about pins being there. Now, the more you complicate it, the more difficult it is for you to consume the services. So there has to be a fine balance to say that the security is good enough, but at the same time, the journey does not have friction to it. So I think some of our initiatives like Aadhaar, for example, is a very good example to say how we have been able to provide very intuitive and simple interfaces at the last mile. Today, for example, when we look at an Aadhaar-enabled payment system, you are actually going to a consumer with a biometric device and you are asking them to put their thumbprint for them to be able to access their account. Now, this is a very secure means of accessing your account. Anybody else cannot really go in and access your account unless they are actually using your thumb. So while it's very simple, you don't need to remember a password, you don't need to remember an ID. Now, these are some of the things which I think will go a long way in making sure that the journey is also secure and there is no vulnerability introduced over there. So in my mind, as we go into digitalization, less is more is important, but equally important is the fact that we have to make sure that there is reasonable cyber security and we are aware about the challenges. And the regulator is today taking a lot of steps to ensure that they are protecting the interests of the consumer. I think the other area which we can look at in terms of digitalization and penetration of it, I think as we are today interacting digitally, you cannot take away the value of a personal contact or a human contact in place of digital interaction. So when we look at the proliferation of social media, we look at the fact that people are today being socially connected only through digital means. I think the human interface cannot be taken out of it. So even as we look at how do we create relationships, how do we run business by interacting with people, by brainstorming, by working together in groups, some of these things you can't take away, and you cannot see digital actually becoming a surrogate to taking away some of those experiences and some of those outcomes. So I think it's a mixed bag. On one side, we feel digitalization is very critical to create inclusion, to create access for the last mile, to create affordability of providing services to a large scale of people. But at the same time, you cannot take away the human element of connecting directly and talking to each other. So I think less is more, but in a measured terms, and similarly, the right infrastructure and security has to be around the entire experience.
All right, sir. Moving on to one question about NSDL e-governance. So NSDL e-governance has over the years has used its project management capabilities and technology expertise to deliver state-of-the-art e-governance solutions to various Indian government departments. What has been the most successful and revolutionary project that NSDL e-governance has accomplished so far that has been a milestone in itself in the Indian economy? So, sir, if you could throw some light on these kind of projects.
Rather, actually, there is not one but many projects. Because as an institution, NSDL e-governance has been building the e-governance infrastructure for the country. So in a way, the institution has been ahead of its time, because today when we talk about environment, society and governance, the ESG framework, NSDL is an institution which probably adopted it 25 years ago. So right from the outset, when we set up the first central depository, was the time when you actually created a dematerialized settlement system for the entire economy and made sure that people could be participating in a totally dematerialized manner and do settlements without resorting to any paper exchange. So that was a hallmark on which the institution started. But I think the e-governance projects that we have gone into subsequently, for example, setting up the tax information network for the country, the issuance of PAN and making every person having access to a PAN number to be able to manage their taxation. These are some of the areas in public finance management which have played a very strong role in actually contributing to the GDP of the country by enabling a transparent and a simple manner of collection of and collation of taxes and monitoring of the same, and providing dashboards to various entities which are monitoring the tax collection. So that has been a big contribution to the Indian economy. Going further from there, and even as we talk, I think some of the discussions nowadays are clearly to say how do we secure or how do we provide social security. Now, being the central regulatory agency, record-keeping agency for the National Pension System and the Atal Pension Yojana, the organization has played again a very strong role in providing digitization of the entire pension ecosystem and making sure the entire underlying infrastructure connecting various intermediaries, be it the pension fund manager, be it the trustee bank, be it the annuity providers of services, bringing them all together has again been an immense project which has put everything together. Other than that, we spoke about Aadhaar stack, and I sort of called out some of the leaps by which the financial sector has moved ahead in creating inclusion. NSDL e-governance has again played a very strong role, but as an enrolling agency, we were one of the pioneering agencies in creating the infrastructure at a national level for enrollment of people. Over a period of time, we have set up last mile touch points where people could go in and we could digitally collect their data and then enable them to get an Aadhaar number. And by virtue of this entire ecosystem and network that we created, almost 91 million enrollments were done through NSDL and e-governance outposts and last mile touchpoints. So that has been a project of immense impact. It has enabled Aadhaar provisioning to the citizens at the last mile. And that has been a very critical enabler for the inclusion as we talk about it and as we see it today.
So we feel very humbled when you mentioned that not just one project, that there are many projects. And now probably after this talk, we understand the significance of NSDL e-governance infrastructure limited. So I think that's really a wonderful insight. So now we will move on to some of your some questions from your personal life, in the sense that we know that we understand you have been an exceptional in your work, and that is what makes you the managing director and CEO of the NSDL e-governance, which we also understand that it impacts every common man in this in India presently. So it would be inspiring to know some of your success stories and the journey that you have taken from scratch. So if you could bring some of those stories for our viewers today.
So I think, Purathan, basically it goes without saying, a long journey, and as you look back, there are points which you feel which really create the thrill of working in a certain environment. So I think it's again organizations and the people within them, and the sort of teams that you are working with and the relationship you build within the organization. That makes a big difference. And as we are looking at today's youngsters moving into and selecting their careers, I think one thing that remains very critical is go for areas which you are passionate about and you want to make a career over there. So when I look at some of the areas in which I have moved, I think a couple of examples, if I may take, whether it was M-Pesa and working with the telecom industry. That was again a very exciting experience, because you actually are moving in a totally different industry, which has limited visibility as a sector to create financial services. But as we all know that even in India today, it's become virtually a mobile first sort of adoption by the people. Whether you're talking about mobile internet, whether you're talking about your experiences in terms of social media interaction, people are today using mobile as the instrument of choice. So a telecom company and how a telecom company can actually play a role in enabling, financial outreach and financial touch points. So that was a very thrilling journey to see how we can enable and leverage an entire ecosystem out there and make things happen. Similarly, when I look at the India Post experience, here was a grand old organization which has a legacy of more than 100 years. People know the Dakia, people are trusting the Dakia. And how do you equip the same person to start taking services at the last mile, equipped with the high-end technology, but at the same time making it very simple and making it very inclusive? So areas which have created impact, which have kindled passion to see how you are, touching different people, different lives, have always been an area of interest for me. And I think that has been, areas which I feel have finally contributed in bringing me to where I am today.
Perfect, sir. So that's interesting to know. We would like to know a few learnings from your, from your life, from your journey, from the entire career, that you personally felt are most important in the life for the youth across the nation, who are aiming to be big and who would probably be watching this video. So if you could throw some light on that, sir.
So, Purathan, clearly as we begin our careers, I think it becomes very critical that, as I already said, that we move into areas in which we are interested. So it's important to keep your options open. Get and choose choose and go for your calling. We today see a very different economy, and the fact being that today we are creating more people who are venturing into the startup ecosystem and building their own enterprises, and rather being job seekers are actually job providers. So you are seeing people following areas of passion, and I think there is also a lot of enablers in play today, where you are getting the right sort of support, whether it is movements like Startup India movement and so on and so forth, where the government, the regulator is giving you enablers to come into the ecosystem and do things of your choice. So I think making the right choices is important. Equally important that when you are getting into an organization, how do you choose or chart your career from there? I think it's important to believe that when you are working in an organization, your relationships and your ecosystem become very critical for you. You need to be working in an environment where healthy competition is important, but you should be at a point where you are making others around you succeed, and that becomes an equally important sort of touch point for you. So not just succeeding yourself, but helping others around you succeed is going to be a very critical element of building your career and going forward from there. Thirdly, I feel in whatever institutions we work, the pride of working in a place that you are there in, be it your own enterprise or be it being working as a professional for another entity, as long as you have ownership of what you're doing and ownership of the organization you are working for, that becomes very important. I've been fortunate, if I look back, that whichever institution we worked with, it was with today, even as we speak about it, it's with a lot of sense of pride that we look at these institutions and how they shape your careers. So whatever the institutions invest in you and whatever you've invested back, it has to be a fair, sort of handshake and a fair sort of exchange. And that becomes very important, that the organization invests in you. And if you're an entrepreneur and running your own organization, my input would be invest in the people that are there. Invest in the people to get the best out of them. And similarly, if you're working in an organization, make sure you are invested in the organization you are working in. So I think these are some learnings which make the journey much more exciting and much more, sort of, what should I say? It's not just about being that it is, long, or longevity is not the point, but it is more about saying you're passionate and you're doing something you love to do.
So passionate, ownership, investment in people, and healthy competition are some of the key words that I take from this discussion. And passion, I can feel as you speak about all your achievements, on everything that SDL has done and you have done in your prior experience in your career profile. I can feel it here while I am connected to you virtually, but I can still feel the passion with which you are speaking, sir. So your words are exemplary, and it's an honor being with you. Your words are really insightful, and I think this will inspire a lot of millions of young and talented individuals across India. And I am told that this video will be watched by people also globally. So that's an honor for them and for us as well. So thank you for joining us today, sir. It's a pleasure for all of us who are part of this team and doing this session with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.